All right, welcome to the Building Web3 podcast. Today with my good friend Mike. He is the CEO of Ether.fi. Mike, before we get too deep into Ether.fi, we'd love to know a bit about your background. What were you doing before you got to crypto, and what was your come to crypto moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually started playing around in crypto back in 2011. So I think I read about it on Hacker News, the Y Combinator news board. Bought some Bitcoin, played around with mining. So I've been playing with it for a while, but didn't go full time until around late 2021 when we started what eventually became Ether.fi. But prior to that, over the entire period, I was running another company called Top Hat, which was an education technology company, B2B SaaS in higher education, which was a lot of fun. I did that for just about 10 years. And then when we sold that, I decided I wanted to make my side thing my full-time thing.
I love it. Now, let's talk a little bit about Ether.fi. So walk us up to the point where we get to Ether.fi. What was the motivation? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so the long-term vision mission of Ether.fi is to make DeFi accessible and easy for normal people, and to make it so that people can do all of their financial services, get all their financial needs served in a crypto native financial services offering. So what that looks like is a suite of products that allow users to save, invest, and spend their money in a crypto native way without ever having to off ramp to TradFi. So what that looks like is we have a product called Ether.fi Stake, Ether.fi Liquid, and Ether.fi Cash. Stake can be thought of, well, it's an ETH staking product, but it can be sort of thought of as a crypto native savings account. Ether.fi Liquid is a non-custodial DeFi strategy product where you can deploy your ETH into DeFi and earn higher rewards. And Ether.fi Cash is a mobile wallet and a credit card that lets you spend or borrow against your crypto.
Absolutely. And let's go through this exercise. We'll call it the life of a transaction. So let's say, we're relatively new DeFi users. We've got some ETH, maybe even a good amount of ETH on a MetaMask account, and we're like, hey, I have to use Ether.fi. So walk us through, a new user coming to Ether.fi and what they can do there.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. And it pretty much follows the flow that I described with Ether.fi Stake, Ether.fi Liquid, and Ether.fi Cash. Step one is you would go to Ether.fi, you'd click on Stake Now. You would stake your ETH to mint a liquid staked version of it, which is basically you've staked your ETH, now you're earning staking and soon restaking rewards. I would say, certainly relative to the crypto universe, that's a pretty low risk proposition. You're not earning crazy rate of reward, but you're earning at least the staking rate. If you were interested in getting higher rewards at a higher risk, what you could do is take that ETH, which is the liquid staked ETH, and deposit it into one of our liquid vaults. And the liquid vaults will deploy it into DeFi. So they will lend those tokens. They will put them into a decentralized exchange. These vaults run a variety of these automated strategies, which earn a higher rate of reward, but definitely give you more exposure to various kinds of smart contract risk. And then finally, if now you're interested in you've got all this ETH, maybe it's appreciated in value, maybe you've earned some rewards, you want to be able to spend that money in real life. What you would do is then sign up for Ether.fi Cash, and then Ether.fi Cash will give you an actual physical Visa credit card that you can go out into the world and either spend your crypto or borrow against it. So it'll one-to-one allow you to spend your USDC in real life with all the nice fun perks and rewards associated with credit cards that you'd expect, or just borrow dollars against your Ether.fi positions. So that's sort of the life cycle of a user.
Awesome. So we go in there, we can stake our ETH, we then get ETH, and then we can put those into the liquid staking pools, get some higher returns, and then we can also, you guys have this new Ether.fi Cash that is. So walk us through it. Like, let's say I'm Jackie Normie and I've now got my new Ether.fi Cash card. How does that work? Do I have money on Ether.fi itself, and then that's kind of funding some of the transactions?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you basically have two options. One is let's say you've got 1,000 USDC in your Ether.fi wallet. Well, the card will just spend that money. You go buy a latte. It'll charge you $5, 1 to 1, no extra fees, nothing. Just spend 5 USDC from your wallet, which in itself is a pretty useful product to have, because it just lets you spend crypto without having to go through the multi-stage process of off-ramping it to your bank account and paying various fees involved in doing that. Or you can put it into borrow mode, where if, let's say, you've got whatever 10 ETH staked in Ether.fi, well, now you can just, let's say you're super bullish on ETH, as you should be. You can just go and borrow dollars against that ETH. So when you buy that $5 latte, it would just borrow $5 against your 10 ETH staked position, and the interest rate you're paying on that $5 that you borrowed is going to be of whatever the prevailing market rate interest rate in crypto is. So you're not paying 30% as you would in some awful TradFi credit card. I don't know what the Aave rate is these days. I think it's like 5 or 6%. So you're paying 5 or 6%, and if you're bullish on ETH, you think ETH is going to go up in price by more than that, then you think that's a good proposition. But it also just makes your life easy, and you can obviously use the rewards you're earning in staking or liquid to just pay off your balance. So it's sort of you can think of it as a self-repaying credit card.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept. So the way I'm familiar, and I'm sure many of the people in the audience are familiar, is you'd go to Chase Bank, they'd issue you a credit card. You'd go to AMX, they'd issue you a credit card. How does this work for Ether.fi? And talk to us a little bit about like how you guys even implement it. I don't know how to make a crypto credit card.
I mean, like anything else that touches TradFi, it's not an easy process. There's tons of compliance. I mean, it is KYC'd, so you do have to register, prove your identity, address, all that stuff. It's only available in certain countries. I mean, it's available in all the countries that you'd expect, except the US, which maybe you wouldn't expect it to be available in the US. But basically, US, North Korea, Iran, Russia, a lot of the sanctioned countries, you can't get it there. But anywhere else in the world, you can get the card issued and mailed to you once you go through the process. And at that point, as I said, you now have a wallet that you can just use with the card. It's super easy. I mean, I really think it'll be the easiest DeFi product on the market. It takes a couple minutes to sign up, and you're good to go.
All right, so now I'm Jax. I've got my crypto Ether.fi credit card. I'm going to 7-Eleven to pick up some gum because I am addicted to gum. I love it. What is the process like? I have to go to a 7-Eleven that supports that, or it's completely like just as any normal credit card would function?
Yeah, it's just a normal Visa card. Just you don't need to know anything. Yeah, I mean, my dream is that the people we start getting users who sign up for this product, the Ether.fi Cash product, who don't even realize that there's anything to do with crypto there. They just sign up for it because it's just a really easy, great product. We haven't officially announced this yet, but we think we're probably going to launch with a 3% cashback rate and a whole bunch of perks associated with having the card. So we just think it'll just be the best product. It's not, you won't have to care that it has anything to do with crypto. It'll just be the best product on the market.
That's really exciting to me because I always use, and longtime listeners of this podcast may be annoyed at this analogy, but I use it all the time, is my mom never goes to a website and she's like, oh, this uses MongoDB? She just uses the website, it's fast, and she doesn't care. She doesn't need to know. And that's why I feel like the future of blockchain and crypto will have to move towards it. It just has to be a better solution.
For sure.
And not that like people are doctrinaire, like, oh, this is crypto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of analogies one can use, but when somebody orders burrito on Uber Eats, they're not sitting there thinking like, oh, I'm using the internet to order my burrito. It's like, no, you're using a product. It's the easiest way for you to get a burrito in 20 minutes, and so that's what you use. The technology is kind of incidental. I mean, another probably overused analogy is, look, the electric cars didn't become a thing with Prius, where it was like this sort of guilt trip, like, oh, you have to drive this awful car because it's useful because it's good for the environment. Like a few diehards maybe suffered in their Priuses and bought the car, but like that was never going to go mainstream. Whereas when Tesla launched, it was just the best car. I mean, it's just a really great car, and that's how electric cars became a thing. It wasn't like the electricness of it; it was almost incidental. It was just the best product. So I think crypto needs to sort of subside into the background and just facilitate creating the best products in their category. You really do need to get past the diehards and go into the mainstream users who just want a great product and good utility.
Yeah, and let's talk about making this great product, because I'm sure it was quite difficult. Like you're now dealing really with the TradFi behemoths as well, and then I really like this concept of a credit card that like somewhat pays itself back, like a self-paying credit card. So let's talk a little bit about
Mm-hmm.
those features and how you guys work to implement those.
Um, so that's the part of it that is just smart contract based. When you've got a bunch of ETH staked in, let's say, in the liquid DeFi strategies, which have a bit of a higher yield or higher reward rate, um, you have a certain amount that's earning, and as long as you don't spend more than the amount of rewards that you're earning, then you can just set it up such that the rewards automatically pay down your balance. And again, that happens at the smart contract level. The credit card aspect of it is really just the TradFi bridge that handles the settlement. I mean, underneath it all is USDT, USDC, and that just handles the final kind of settlement of the card's balance.
Yeah, and then when you want to create the credit card, right? Like, I assume you don't just call up like Visa or Mastercard. And they're like, "Hey, we'd love to do a crypto credit card," and I'm sure they hang up a few times, but you eventually get through.
No, so we use a whole bunch of different service providers. We use Reap to do the card program, so they've got all the licenses to be able to do that, and the interface with Visa. We use Chainalysis for the AML and sanctioned entities, as well as other filters. There's something called SumSub, which you use for KYC, and half a dozen other products and services. So there's quite a bit of like integration and cobbling this thing together. So it is a proper compliant system, and then that allows us to operate in a set of countries. And anytime we turn on a new country, it requires a bunch of extra work to make sure we are following the rules and regulations in those countries. But it is I mean, it's definitely a lot more work, and it's a lot more complicated than cloning Uniswap and launching the 12th DEX on the 500th L2, which is, I think, that's the issue. I mean, among other things, that's the issue crypto has, is everyone is focused on kind of the quick wins, the easy money that you can get by launching yet another infra or clone project, rather than doing things that are a lot more painful and a lot more uncomfortable, that involve ultimately giving real users utility.
Now, do you think that will, I guess off topic, but do you think that will go away with, people are talking a lot about chain abstraction, and it may not matter the specific chain, the 12th clone of Uniswap lives on, but if there's just offering the best prices?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that has to be abstracted. I mean, a user should not have to care what chain they're transacting on. So, I mean, of course, our credit card payment settlement and accounting mechanism is going to be on L2. We're in the final stages of deciding which L2 it's going to be, but that the user's not going to care about that. The user's not going to have to think about whether it's an L1 or L2 or whatever. They're just going to be able to transact and use the product in their life. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely we're still in this awkward teenager phase of crypto, but I think, I mean, I don't know how long it'll take to change, but hopefully Ether.fi and the cash product helps kind of move the needle there.
Yeah, and this is an interesting topic because we have a lot of aspiring builders and founders on the podcast. Talk to us a little bit about, because you guys are in the midst of a decision on how to decide on an L2. Like, what kind of criteria do you evaluate when you're like, I want to pick Arbitrum over Optimism, or insert whatever L2 you want.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. I almost don't want to get too far into the weeds because we haven't announced it or made a decision yet. But
Sure.
table stakes are. I mean, it has to be very fast, right? You can't wait 20 seconds or more for a transaction to settle. You pretty much need to it needs to be executed and done. So we need very fast settlement times. And when I say very fast, I mean a few seconds is fine. You need something where the transactions are basically free. I mean, even if a transaction costs a penny, like that can get problematic if you're doing a lot of them. So fast, low transaction fees. We care about the ability to implement some sort of privacy, so that users aren't advertising every purchase that they're making. There's a bunch of other criteria, but community, obviously, like there's some value in picking an L2 community that is vibrant and is going to help promote the card. So things like that.
Absolutely. Well, everyone stay tuned and find out what Mike ends up picking for the company. I'm sure everyone's on the edge of their seat. So let's talk a little bit about Ether.fi Cash again. Let's talk, I've seen crypto credit cards in the past, or maybe I was hallucinating. Talk to us a little bit about like the differentiation and like why you guys chose to take on this market.
Yeah, so most, maybe even all crypto credit cards suck. The reason, and again, I haven't looked at every single one, so maybe I'm wrong, but the reason most of them are bad is for two reasons. One, most of them are not credit cards. They're actually just debit cards. They're prepaid debit cards. So that introduces a whole bunch of problems. In many cases, it means you can't use it to, for example, rent a car or pay for a hotel, and other restrictions. So debit cards are just not, for whatever reason, they're not as versatile as true credit cards. So that it's not going to be your primary card if it's just a prepaid debit card. The second thing is most of them are not crypto cards because they force you to sell your crypto to preload your debit card with fiat. So it's like, well, what's crypto about this? It's a debit card where you have to sell your ETH in order to buy fiat, and then you have to keep, obsessively checking. All right, is my, do I have enough preloaded? And obviously, you're losing out on interest if you've just got a whole bunch of cash sitting in this, prepaid debit card. And there's obviously usually exorbitant fees and settling and very high interest if you're borrowing with the card. So they're just bad products. This is why nobody uses them. Like they're just bad products. They're worse than a normal credit like an Amex Platinum or whatever Visa that you're going to use. They're just not great products. That's the differentiation. Ether.fi Cash is an actual credit card, not a debit card, a credit card. So you'll be able to use it anywhere that you can use a Visa for anything that you want to use it. And we don't force you to sell your crypto. You can just keep your crypto. You can either spend USDC, no off-ramping. You don't have to sell it. Just spend your USDC, or borrow against your ETH or BTC or whatever you want to hold. You basically have your whole portfolio. You can just hold it and borrow against it. So all of that is just a better experience, and it's going to have great perks. As I said, hopefully we're able to pull this off. You're going to get 3% cash back, which is the best in the market. Nothing else gives you 3% cash back on everything. You're going to have the lowest interest rate of any credit card. If you're paying 6 or 7% instead of 30, it's pretty good. And you're going to have great perks. Like for example, for like the higher tier cards, you'll get free conference passes to like Token or Consensus or other great conferences. You're going to get preferential prices on a variety of partners. So it's just going to be awesome. It's just going to be the best product. And selfishly, I mean, like in many ways, I'm just building the product that I want to exist. I mean, selfishly, like I want this product. I want to be able to eventually close my bank account and just do everything on chain. So I think that's the underlying motivation, is to build the world as I want to live in it.
Absolutely, and that makes complete sense to me. I guess one of the things I was thinking about is the exorbitant fees on credit cards. I assume part of that is they want more money, and part of that is they have like some kind of fraud protection, or they bear some of the counterparty risk for transactions. If you guys aren't, charging high fees, like how do you guys, I guess, defend against like counterparty risk or any of these like, fraud issues that may pop up? And not fraud as in you guys being hacked, but like fraud as in like, I don't know, stolen credit cards and people using them nefariously.
So yeah, there's a lot of reasons for why cards have high fees. Um, and most of it has to do with the fact that in any credit card transaction, pretty much any credit card transaction that you do with whatever card you use, there's typically, give or take, about a 5% take rate that goes to 7 different intermediaries from like and a good chunk of that, probably about 3%, is paid by the merchant. So the merchant pays 25 cents per transaction plus 3%, whatever, give or take, of the actual fee. So a bunch of it is paid by the merchant, and then, which of course just means you're paying a higher price. And then the other 2% is sort of absorbed by the consumer. And even if you're not paying for it, someone else is paying for it directly or indirectly. Maybe the card has an annual fee. Maybe the card, on average, people tend to carry a balance, and they're paying 30% a year on that balance. So that goes to sort of defray that cost. There's an FX fee. So anytime you do a cross currency transaction, there's usually a big fee. So there's like these different layers and statistical properties to the transaction flow that credit card issuers like banks typically will work with to ensure that they are in fact making money on every not on every transaction, but in aggregate that they are making money on the credit card program. But that's where the fees come from. Is that's why there's all this like hidden stuff, these hidden fees that you're having to cover, is because 5% of every transaction has to go to half a dozen different intermediaries. And no, the fraud prevention stuff is like, I mean, that's a trivial thing, because all they do is reverse the transaction, right? You dispute it, there's some sort of dispute resolution. I mean, it almost never happens, and then they just reverse the transaction. Like, no, really, the person who's on the hook is the merchant, because it's usually the spenders that are. It's rarely the merchant that's fraudulent. It's usually people buy stuff and then dispute it. And again, the person left holding the bag is usually the merchant.
Oh, tough to be a merchant. Yeah, we interviewed these guys from Ensure, and they do fraud prevention software for those, and it seemed like a very difficult problem to solve and tricky. So let's talk real quick about the credit card itself. So if I'm thinking about credit cards in my head, I'm thinking about like, there are business credit cards, there are travel credit cards, there are more consumer based, and I'll put the consumer base in the travel section. Talk to us a little bit about, like, is this a tool for consumers, or like, are you guys trying to target it to businesses initially? Like, who is this credit card for?
First, initially, it's crypto native consumers. Hopefully soon after, we are going to launch a corporate card program that will be aimed at DAOs and crypto native companies that will want just a credit card program designed for them, that, for example, issues cards to their digital nomad employees. But anyway, initially it'll be crypto native DeFi users.
Nice. Well, when you make the corporate card, do let me know, and I will definitely use it for my travels to Token 2049, probably for the year that comes. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering where they could get this card, where they can apply. Like, people know about Ether.fi most likely, but call out any kind of social media, call out any kind of places they can connect with you, and kind of get started on applying for this credit card.
So just go to Ether.fi, click Stake Now, and to go into the DApp, and then click on Cash, and then you'll be able to apply there. Right now, we're in the pre-order phase, so you can pre-order your card. But we will be shipping the first versions of the card in the next couple of weeks, and then slowly rolling it out to a broader and broader circle of users. By mid-September, We should be rolling it out to a good number of people. And then it'll be fully opened up.
All right, so everyone get your cards before DevCon is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, DevCon will make it. We'll try to make a big splash around it for
Hey,
sure.
we love that. Perfect. So everyone, go get involved with Mike. Go get involved with Ether.fi. Go apply and get on the wait list for the card. I'm excited to get my own. So to all the builders out here in Web3, we're not just living in Web3 land. We're even bridging the divide back to IRL lifestyle. So thank you so much for coming on here, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome.